Have you ever wondered why some women hold a power so magnetic that even the most stoic, guarded men find themselves unraveling in their presence? It's not their beauty alone, nor the perfection of their words or deeds. No, it's something older, wilder, and infinitely more dangerous. It is the echo of archetypes buried deep in the collective unconscious, energies so potent they awaken parts of him he thought long extinct. These forbidden feminine forces are not taught, they are remembered, like a secret language written in the bones of every woman. There is a woman who does not ask for permission to exist. She carries in her eyes the storm of the untamed, and yet there is a stillness in her soul that speaks of ancient mountains and forgotten rivers. To her, life is not a performance. She does not need to please. She does not need to explain. Her very presence is an initiation, a mirror reflecting both his light and his shadow. And he feels it. Deep in the recesses of his psyche, he feels the pull toward her mystery, his rational mind warring with the unconscious longing to surrender. This is not the sweetness of the maiden who waits to be chosen. This is the fierce, embodied energy of the woman who chooses, and in her choosing, she awakens something primal within him. You may wonder, what is it about her? Why does she drive him to the edge of obsession while others, though lovely, leave no trace? The answer lies in her embrace of the forbidden. She has danced with her shadows and emerged whole, no longer fragmented by societal expectations of what a good woman should be. You see, most women are taught to amputate pieces of themselves. To silence the wild, to bury the sensual, to tame the power that pulses beneath their skin. But the forbidden feminine does none of this. She allows the full spectrum of her being to exist, unashamed, uncontained. And paradoxically, it is her unapologetic wholeness that draws him near, even as it terrifies him. There is an alchemy at play when a woman reclaims her shadow. She no longer projects her disowned rage, desire, or ambition onto others. Instead, she integrates them, becoming both soft and unyielding, compassionate yet fiercely boundaried. This balance confuses the man who expects her to fit neatly into the virgin or the whore, the nurturer or the destroyer. She is all of them, and none. And in the space where his mind cannot categorize her, his soul begins to stir. Perhaps you've felt glimpses of this energy within yourself, in moments when you stopped apologizing for your desires, when you said no without guilt, when you allowed your sensuality to flow without shame. Or perhaps it still sleeps, waiting for you to call it forth. What would you think if I told you that this sleeping power is the very key to transforming not only how he perceives you, but how you perceive yourself? He senses it even before he can name it, the woman who walks unbound by the scripts of the wounded feminine. She does not need to cling, to prove, or to manipulate. She does not play the muse to inflate his ego nor the martyr to secure his affection. Instead, she holds a mirror to his soul, and in that reflection, he is forced to confront the parts of himself he has long denied. And here lies the paradox: she drives him wild not because she fulfills his fantasies, but because she shatters them. In her presence, his carefully constructed personas begin to crumble. The stoic warrior, the charming lover, the calculating strategist, all fall away as he feels an ancient hunger rising within him. A hunger for truth. A hunger for wholeness. The forbidden feminine energy is not about seduction in the way the world teaches it. It is not coquettish or performative. It is the seduction of presence, the allure of a woman fully embodied in her power, her wounds, and her wisdom. She is not afraid to be too much, because she no longer fears abandonment. She has already chosen herself. And when she walks into a room, she does not have to speak to command attention. The air shifts. Men feel it like a primal whisper, an invitation and a challenge wrapped into one. Do they dare approach? Do they dare meet the gaze of the woman who does not need them, yet welcomes them with open eyes and a guarded heart? This energy is not for the faint of heart. It is not for the man who seeks comfort over growth, nor the woman who still believes her worth lies in being palatable. It is raw, untamed, and wildly alive, the very embodiment of what Carl Jung called the anima, the feminine soul image that dwells within the unconscious of every man. To encounter it externally is to confront his own depths. And not every man survives the meeting unchanged. He cannot look away. Even when every logical fiber of his mind warns him to retreat, something deeper, older than language, keeps him tethered to her presence. This is the paradox of the forbidden feminine. She both threatens and liberates. For in her eyes he sees not only the beauty of her essence, but the reflection of his own unhealed wounds, his denied desires, and the shadows he has spent a lifetime evading. She does not play the game of pursuit. She is the game. Not because she seeks to manipulate, but because her energy refuses to be confined within the narrow lanes of what he expects a woman to be. She embodies the lover, the sage, the wild woman, and the mother archetype all at once, without apology or explanation. And in doing so, she dismantles the duality of good and bad that has shaped his perception of women since boyhood. Most men have never encountered such a presence. They are accustomed to women who bend, accommodate, and dilute themselves for love. But she does not bend. She is supple like water yet immovable like stone. To her, love is not a transaction nor a battlefield, it is a sacred dance that requires two whole beings. She has no interest in half-loves, in shallow validation, or in being chosen by a man who has not yet chosen himself. There is a strange kind of power in this detachment. It is not coldness. It is not indifference. It is a deep, unwavering connection to her own worth. She has walked through her shadows, danced with her demons, and learned to hold her pain with tenderness. The girl within her, the one who once yearned to be seen and loved at any cost, has grown into a woman who no longer begs for crumbs. And it is precisely this inner work that makes her irresistible. He may try to define her, to place her into categories that make sense, the femme fatale, the nurturing goddess, the intellectual muse. But she slips through his fingers like smoke, like a dream he cannot fully grasp. She is not here to fit his narrative, she is here to live her own. And this dissonance unsettles him, stirs him, awakens in him a longing not merely for her body, but for something far more terrifying, intimacy with his own soul. In the quiet moments, he might wonder why he cannot forget her. Other women have come and gone, their beauty fading from memory like petals scattered in the wind. But she remains. Not because she clings, not because she chases, but because her energy has carved itself into his psyche like an ancient symbol. She is not a chapter in his story. She is a mirror to the parts of him that long to be written. For you, the question is not whether you can become her. The question is whether you are willing to strip away the layers of who you were taught to be. Can you unearth the rage you buried, the desires you denied, the boundaries you were told were selfish? Can you sit with the ache of your own unmet needs until they no longer drive you to perform for love? This is the work of shadow integration, a concept Jung described as the confrontation with the dark side of the personality, not to banish it, but to reclaim it. To own the parts of you that are wild, sensual, assertive, and even destructive is to become whole. And a whole woman cannot be controlled, possessed, or diminished. She does not need to chase, because she knows her presence alone is enough. And yet, this energy is not about dominance or superiority. It is about authenticity. When you stand in the fullness of who you are, you naturally call forth men who are ready, and repel those who are not. This is not rejection. It is resonance. It is the sacred filtering of energy that protects your soul from those who cannot meet you where you stand. He will feel it before he understands it. The subtle shift in your gaze, the rootedness in your posture, the absence of striving in your words. This is not arrogance, it is sovereignty. And sovereignty is magnetic to a man who has begun his own descent into the depths, who has tasted the hollowness of surface-level connections and now hungers for the real. But be warned, not every man will rise to meet this energy. Some will resent it. Others will worship it without truly understanding it. Only the rare ones, those who have faced their own shadows, will recognize in you the sacred invitation to growth. And in that recognition, a different kind of attraction blooms, one that transcends lust, bypasses ego, and reaches into the soul. There is a threshold every man must cross when faced with such a woman. At first, he may attempt to conquer her, believing her to be a prize to be won. He uses the tools he's mastered, charm, status, promises wrapped in silk, but they crumble in her presence. For she cannot be seduced by performances, she sees through masks with the precision of a blade. Her eyes do not flinch from his shadows, and this is where his real test begins. In her, he encounters not just a lover, but an archetypal force. She is the embodiment of his anima, the hidden feminine energy within his psyche that longs for integration. Carl Jung spoke of this as a man's pathway to individuation, where the fragmented parts of his soul are reunited in wholeness. But such a journey is not without cost. To stand in the presence of a woman who has claimed her forbidden feminine is to face his own wounds, his fear of vulnerability, his dependency on external validation, his need to dominate as a shield against intimacy. She does not flinch when his darkness rises. She has met her own and survived. This is why her energy feels dangerous to him, because it demands truth. And truth is the one thing his ego fears above all else. For perhaps the first time in his life, he realizes he cannot control the narrative. He cannot dictate the pace or the outcome. She is not his to shape, she is a sovereign being who has chosen herself, and now challenges him to do the same. There is a sacredness to her boundaries that both frustrates and fascinates him. She will not bend to his whims, nor abandon herself to keep the peace. Her love does not come cheaply, for it is born of self-respect. This is not the passive love of the maiden waiting for rescue. This is the love of the woman who has rescued herself. And it is this love, rare, ferocious, tender, that has the power to change him, if he is willing. But most men are not ready. Some will retreat, labeling her as too much, too intense, too independent. Others will attempt to dim her light, to coax her back into the familiar roles of pleaser or nurturer, where they feel safer. Yet she does not comply. She has already burned in the fire of her own awakening, and she will not extinguish her flame for anyone. And so she walks through life differently. She does not chase love, for she understands that to chase is to abandon oneself. She does not settle, for she has learned that settling is a slow death to the soul. Instead, she attracts by being fully, unapologetically. There is no need for her to perform feminine energy as an act of seduction. Her energy is not a performance, it is her essence. She wears her sensuality like a second skin, not for him, not for anyone, but because it is who she is. And when she moves through the world, it is not with the desperation of one seeking approval, but with the quiet confidence of one who knows she is the approval. He feels it. In her silence. In her laughter. In the way she looks at him without need, only curiosity. And it rattles him because he has been conditioned to believe that a woman's attention must come with strings, with demands, with an unspoken hunger to be filled. But she asks for nothing. She demands nothing. And this absence of need becomes the very thing that draws him nearer. She is a paradox, nurturing yet fiercely independent, soft yet utterly unyielding, present yet unattached. To stand in her presence is to feel the wildness of the forest and the stillness of the deep ocean at once. He cannot own her, because she does not even seek to own herself. She has let go of control, surrendered to the fullness of her being, and in doing so has become untouchable. Perhaps you, too, feel the stirrings of this energy within. Perhaps you sense the call to stop silencing your intuition, to stop packaging your love in neat, digestible forms. What if the very qualities you were taught to hide, your power, your rage, your yearning, are the keys to embodying this forbidden feminine? This is not a journey for the faint of heart. It requires the courage to disappoint, to be misunderstood, to stand alone if necessary. But in this space of radical authenticity, something extraordinary happens. You stop attracting those who only want fragments of you. And you begin to draw in those who are willing to meet the whole. There comes a moment in this dance where the air thickens with unspoken truths. He begins to sense that winning her is not the goal, that there is nothing to win, nothing to possess. For she is not a prize but a portal. A portal to his own transformation, if he dares to step through. The forbidden feminine is a teacher cloaked in desire. She evokes a hunger beyond flesh, a yearning not for conquest but for connection, for the kind of intimacy that requires a man to lay down his armor and face his raw, unfiltered self. Few have the fortitude. Fewer still have the humility. But the ones who do, they are reborn in her fire. And yet she is not waiting for him to awaken. She is not sitting in the shadows, hoping he will finally see her worth. She is too occupied with her own becoming. For this woman understands a sacred truth: love is not about completion, it is about amplification. She does not seek a man to fill her voids. She seeks a man who is whole enough to dance beside her without trying to dim her flame. This is why her energy feels both intoxicating and terrifying. She is not a balm for his wounds, nor a fantasy for his ego. She is a catalyst, and catalysts are not always comfortable. In her presence, illusions die. Pretenses dissolve. The boy within him, still clinging to outdated scripts of masculinity, trembles under her gaze. He may feel anger rise, a defense against the vulnerability she stirs. He may try to label her as dangerous, manipulative, even cruel. But this is projection, pure and simple. She has done nothing but exist in her fullness. It is his own shadows that react to her light. This is the work of the anima, Jung's archetype of the inner feminine. Until a man integrates her within, he will fear her without. He will oscillate between idolizing and vilifying women, unable to see them as sovereign beings because he has yet to reconcile the feminine within himself. But when he begins to embrace this inner union, he ceases to view her power as a threat. Instead, he meets it with his own, grounded, conscious, unshaken. For her, this is the only kind of union worth having. A meeting of equals. Two beings standing in their sovereignty, choosing each other freely, not from need but from overflow. She has no desire to mother him, to heal him, to fix what he refuses to face. Her love is fierce, but it is not sacrificial. It is an offering, not a lifeline. And so she moves through the world untethered, magnetic to those who can recognize her frequency and invisible to those who cannot. She no longer fears rejection, for she understands rejection is simply resonance, an energetic mismatch that protects her from those not aligned with her depth. For you, the question lingers: can you hold this power without shrinking? Can you embody your forbidden feminine without apology? The world has taught you to tame yourself, to trade wildness for approval, depth for comfort. But the woman who drives him wild does not ask for approval, nor does she barter her magic for conditional love. To awaken her is to reclaim your rage, your pleasure, your intuition, your boundaries. It is to allow yourself to be fully seen, messy, magnificent, multidimensional. And in this wholeness, you cease to magnetize men who want only fragments of you. He will know. He will feel it before words are ever spoken. The pull toward you will be unlike any he's known. Not because you are performing, but because you are no longer performing. You are simply being radiant, rooted, untouchable in your self-possession. But understand this: your power will not be for every man. It will repel the ones who crave control, the ones addicted to drama, the ones still dancing with their unintegrated shadows. And this is your liberation. For you are not here to be everything to everyone. You are here to be wholly yourself, and in doing so, to call forth only those who can meet you there. And when you do, you will understand the deepest secret of all. The woman who knows her worth doesn't chase, she chooses.